Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. The goal is to be transparent and unbiased. This is not an endorsement. It's a privilege to serve you. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, what's going on? So I am here in this beautiful green field checking out a almost as beautiful green bike. It's called the Vika Plus from Blix. It's actually an upgrade from the previous Vika, but I'm going to lean on my man Pontus to tell us a little bit more about that. So hey, how you doing?
Hey.
So tell me a little bit about the upgrades for this new bike.
So the upgrades for the Vika is the utility aspect of it, which includes mounting points in the rear and the front to add on accessories like baskets and extra racks and so on. You have a upgrade in the performance in terms of the motor being 500 watt and the battery 48 volt and 14 amp hour. So a little bit more oomph and power in the battery and the bike overall. And then you have disc brakes and little thicker tires and aluminum color matched fenders. So a few small and big updates.
Oh, cool. Yeah, like he was saying, the accessories are actually a really big part of that. We're actually going to spend a little bit of time going over the accessories during part of the review and showing you kind of how they fit on there and kind of the attention that Blix has put into it. Because it's actually, I'd say, a pretty big, compelling part of the total package is that you have some accessories that kind of fit on the bike, you know. I've heard the joke, you get a kid's seat and then the bike comes with it, that kind of thing. But anyways, we'll get to that, and I'll actually show you a little bit of riding around the bike with my little girl on the back. I'm really excited for that, you can tell. But let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about, well, the gears. Let's go ahead and jump into the mechanical specifications first. All right, so we're over on the other side of the little stream here. It's kind of nice. You got the ducks in the back and a nice little picturesque sort of hill in the back with the mountains way in the back and everything. Anyways, so we're checking out the Blix Vika Plus, and the Vika actually is for means fold in Swedish, so you kind of got a little bit of a Swedish heritage there with the bicycle. So let's go ahead and talk about the mechanical specs. We'll go ahead and start in the very back of the bike because that's actually where a lot of the action is. So of course it's a folding bike, and as a result a lot of the weight is lower. That's a lot due to the lower center of gravity with the smaller tires. You know, we got a lot of the weight for the frame down there, the step through section, lots of good stuff like that. So it starts off with the 20-inch by 2-inch tires. These are a good set of tires. They have the reflective sidewall on them, which is one of my favorite features of a commuter tire. So this is definitely a commuter equipped bike, and that's a good start of it, is the reflective sidewall. If you didn't notice, a lot of bicycle accidents statistically happen from the side of the bike where there's less reflective material usually. But in this case they address that with a reflective sidewall on there, so it's a really good touch. The 2-inch wide tires, and that's kind of like a street tread on there. The 2-inch wide tires do provide some pretty good cushion compared to a lot of other folding bikes. It's common to see folding bikes with a tiny profile on them, and they do have their benefits. But in this case it adds to a lot of comfort, a little bit of stability as well for the overall ride profile. You have a double walled rim on here, and you actually have 12 gauge spokes in the back, actually 13 gauge in the front. But up front these are in the back these are a 12 gauge thicker spoke. Then of course the reason for that is the extra torque that's coming from the motor here. We'll talk about the motor when we get into the electric system. So on the brakes you have a mechanical set of disc brakes back here. Let's go ahead and swerve over and show you that. So these are a Tektro set of mechanical brakes. Personally I like them because they're easy to fix, but it's also gripping onto the 160 millimeter rotor in the back there, which is pretty good. So that's a nice set of brakes to have on here, pretty compact, which is nice for a folding bike. So while we're back here, let's talk about a little bit of the fun stuff. So this is using a we'll kind of jump into the accessories. I know I'm kind of getting bouncing around a little bit, but in this case you have a color matched metal fender, which the metal fender is not only for the stability of the fender but also for the rack, because the rack mounts to the fender as well as the frame of the bicycle. So it's pretty stiff. It's so stiff in fact that it can hold some good accessories, and I'll talk about that a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to get Sweet Pea on the back here and a kid's seat and all of that. No joke, it's pretty fun. This rack can carry a lot of good stuff as well because it has a more traditional piping for the rail, and also a couple of levels. So you can actually get a couple of panniers on here. If you have a custom set of panniers, or a set of panniers that's one that you like, if it has like a normal size hook on it, it should fit on here just fine. But there's also some sets that you can get from Blix for panniers.
In the back here, you also have a reflector that also has a light attached to it. And that wiring actually goes through the fender into the controller. And that's where kind of the action happens. So this actually has a light on it that's integrated into the main battery pack. So continuing on to the front of the bike, starting in the back, you have a 14 to 28 tooth set of gears in the back here. That's all the sprockets on the Shimano tourney derailleur. And the tourney right now is actually kind of one of the entry level for the shifter, or for the derailleur rather. But it's come a long way. And I was talking with a friend of mine, and we both agreed that the Shimano tourney has come a long way in the last few years. It used to have, you know, kind of a moderate reliability, but it's come up pretty well. So I would totally rock a tourney. The chain, of course, comes up to the front of the bike, and that's a pretty big front chain ring up there. I mean, it's pretty big. You're looking at 54 tooth count for this chain ring, and that gives you a little bit extra torque, which is nice. Because a bike like this can certainly be in a lot of different situations if you're riding up a steep hill, say in the city, or if you're riding in more of a casual environment, such as where we are today. So it's got a good range based on the height of that, or the tooth count of this front chain ring. You have a 170 millimeter crank coming into the metal pedals, and they actually fold. So you actually push in on them and rotate the pedal, and it'll kind of get out of the way. It doesn't look like a lot, but that actually saves you a couple inches, which can make all the difference when you're putting it inside of putting the bike inside of a tight area. And I'll show you a little bit more about the folding aspect in a bit. Continuing on with the frame, it has a pretty low step you see up over here, and that's nice and easy to get into. So the stand over height is 16.5 inches. So that's 16.5 inches from this spot here to the ground. So that's pretty darn easy to get into. Makes it really easy and approachable. It's easy to toss the bike when it's folded into the back of a car or in a trunk, unfold it and get on the bike. You don't have to worry about getting your leg over a really high bar. That's actually quite rare for a folding bike. I have never seen a folding bike with a high bar. I think that Prodeco made one, maybe, I don't know. But that low step is pretty good because it's easy to get in and out. Also keeps the weight low of the entire bike. Kind of something I mentioned before was that the frame is a part of that. So it kind of extends out a little bit coming up to the front of the bike. You have a pretty regular set of a headset here in the threaded stem, or sorry, threaded headset coming up into this stem. So the stem is, I guess, adjustable. I don't know, it's not a traditional stem that kind of pokes out, in that it has a folding mechanism and a telescopes. So let's go ahead and walk over to this side of the bike and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you open up this little latch right here, then you can actually telescope how high the stem goes. I'll go ahead and put it in the middle and kind of cinch it into position. Oh, kind of fell down. A lot easier to do with two hands. The stem also has this folding feature. Let's go ahead and show you that one. So you actually twist, you kind of open this up, and the stem kind of loosens up on this little latch right there, and then the whole thing falls right over. So that's pretty good because you can get the whole entire size of the bike lower. Of course, the seat comes out. I can show you that real quick while we're at it. Open this up, pull out the seat post, and boom, you got a good set of of lowered height for the total. So you could totally stuff it into a closet just the way it is. Let's go ahead and do the last little bit of it, and I'll show you what it looks like totally folded. We'll get the pedals on in. Let's see. Turn the pedals all the way around, kind of get out of the way. This one there. All right. You can see I'm doing this with one hand, which is pretty nice. It either says a lot to my skill or a lot to the ease of use for pulling this apart. So it has this latch, kind of open it up, boom. All right, and even though the kickstand's up, usually you have two hands on here, one hand in the back, one hand in the front. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we'll kind of open up that main side of the pivot point there, and then bam, kind of get the kickstand up. All right, we'll kind of lower that down nice and easy. All right, so right about there. So that's about the size of the bike when it's all folded up. Of course, we have the exact measurements elsewhere on EBR or ElectricBikeReview.com. But there you go. It's pretty well folded up. You could totally get that in the back of a trunk or into perhaps an airplane, maybe a boat for travel. Let's go ahead and unfold it here. Let's open that up, get the main hook. All right, we're in the home stretch already. Get the safety latch down with the kickstand, unfold the pedals, and we will open up, or rather close the stem. Gotta put that in there, twist them a little bit, kind of get it aligned up.
All right, there you go. Oh, of course. It'd be nice to have a seat. Get the seat on there. Gotta get that in a good spot. Cinch it in. And bam, we're ready to ride. So that's how you fold it. Coming up with the stem, we'll go ahead and continue on with the mechanical controls. So the handlebars aren't particularly wide. These are 640 millimeters wide from end to end, and it's pretty narrow. And so as a result, when I do the ride portion, I'm going to have a camera actually strapped onto myself, because I'm not going to be riding with one hand too much. The narrow handlebars, along with kind of like the smaller tires, give for a really tight turning profile. I mean, you could do some really technical stuff if you wanted to, kind of turn on a dime with just that part of the controls, having kind of a smaller handlebar and a smaller tire. I mean, right there, it's really tight turning. And so that's really good for maneuverability if you're in a city environment, getting around cars, or if you're getting around buses, or if you're jumping on a sidewalk, depending on the legality in your area. So that's definitely a good feature about a folding bike, is to have something that's quite nimble, you know, I'd say. So up on here, you do have a Shimano Revo shift for the indexer. And that's, of course, changing gears in the back that we kind of addressed a little bit. I like this set because it's nice and tight. It doesn't have like the controls dangling down here, which is good for a folding bike because it kind of tightens things up. You know, it doesn't have so much going on up at the front. So it kind of keeps a good form factor. You don't actually have to turn too much. One thing I really like about this set is that it turns nice and quick. Really easy to switch gears on that. And of course, compact. You do have a nice set of brake handles up here. You have a nice four finger lever up here with kind of a texturized edge on the side. And that, of course, is going down to the disc brakes. So this is one of them, the disc brake down here. By the way, the front set of wheels is more or less mirrored from the back. You have a 13 gauge spoke, you have the same wheel, same tire, the 20x2, same set of brakes in the back. But one thing I should mention is this little magnet right here. So during the folding aspect, I didn't highlight it, but this magnet actually swings back into position and meets up with the magnet here in the back. And so those two together kind of keep it in a compact form, so you don't have it like bouncing around and trying to open itself up if, say, you're going through a bumpy road with this guy in the trunk of the car. The kickstand, while we're back here, has a 40 millimeter provision, and it's actually mounted slightly in the rear from the center, which is nice because you can actually push the bike backwards. And as you push the bike backwards, the cranks rotate backwards as well. And the bike won't lock up because you have a recessed kind of kickstand mounting position here. So it will remove that locking possibility when you're pushing the bike backwards, like in a garage, or maybe if you're taking this inside of your office or something. So that's pretty cool. So other things to talk about on the bike, we talked about the mechanical system. Let's jump into the electric. So the bike actually does have a really good battery mounting position in the back of the bike here. So you have a fair amount of the weight towards the back of the bike. Of course, the rider is a little bit back, but you also have the battery in the back, which is a 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery, as well as the weight of the motor. So as a result, you get a lot of traction on the back wheel, which is a great opportunity if you want to get some good riding in. So the battery position, of course, in the back makes it pretty compact for where they have it mounted in relation to the rest of the system. So it's on the rear of the seat post right here, and they have a pretty good mount for it. You can see it kind of flares out from the main tube there, kind of comes into contact right there, and this is where the controller sits. The battery actually does come out fairly easy for what you're looking at. It's kind of tough to get a battery compact right in here and still have the stability. You know, it's a toss-up between accessibility and something that's stable. But in this case, I think they made a good choice. So the battery is locked into position physically. You can actually get it out. Let's go ahead and release the lever on this mount for the handle, or I'm holding the handle on the seat there. We'll go ahead and release that to open up the seat. And actually unlock the battery just by twisting it. And there you go. And then from there, you can just pull the battery straight up and out. And boom, there you go. Here's your 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery from Blix. It does have a little button on there that will tell you the charge level, kind of a general sense. Let's go ahead and put it back in there. So we kind of get it down fairly low to kind of keep the weight down. Lock it in and pull that out if you need to. And boom, off you go. Off to the races. So that's a good spot for mounting the battery for weight distribution as well, which I like a lot. And it's pretty accessible. You don't have parts of the frame getting in the way, so you can kind of get it right in and out of there. In the back of the bike, you also have the motor for the main propulsion. So this is a Shengyi motor. It's a 500 watt motor, and Shengyi isn't as known of a company, but they're a great bicycle motor company, as well as other scooters and things. So I like it a lot. It's definitely one of my favorites as far as a bike motor company. Let's jump into the electric system on the display right here. So after you press the power button on the bottom, it'll boot up and show you a few things. This is very similar to the other Blix bikes if you've seen the reviews for them. So the power level is up here on kind of like this ruler looking display. Right in the dead center is where you have your speed of how fast you're going, and your pedal assist level just below that. The pedal assist level is also tied to the throttle. So that means that in pedal assist, when you pedal, it will get the bike going based on how much you pedal. And it's counting that on a cadence sensor that's mounted right here inside, internal, into the bottom bracket area. So you don't have to worry about, fidgeting with anything. It's all tucked in there nice. So as you pedal, it'll give you assistance, and the higher the number, the more assistance it will give you as you pedal. Also, that is attached to the throttle in the sense that it's kind of a top speed limiter for the throttle, if you want to think of it that way. Whereas in level 1, it'll probably throttle you up to about, 9 miles an hour or so. Level 2 will be a little bit more. I'm kind of pulling numbers out, maybe 13 and then 15. Up to 20 miles an hour is the top speed on either throttle or on pedal assist. So this bike is a class 2 electric bike because of the presence of a throttle and the 20 mile an hour top speed. So, check your local laws and see how that works out for you. In most cases, it's a pretty good fit for a lot of urban environments in particular, which is where this bike would be used in a lot of cases. So let's go ahead and cover up the front of the bike real quick. You do have another light that is integrated into the main battery pack right up at the front, mounted on the fender. Also up front is this nameplate up here. This nameplate actually comes off, and that is a provision for mounting different accessories. You can check the website for accessories. If we have time, I'll show you those kind of laid out for what works on the Vika Plus, which is pretty much most of them, because that's kind of what Blix is going for. They want something that's more uniform. You can fit the same rack on here, you can fit the same rack on here that you can on the Soul or the Avenue. So that's a really cool feature. So one last thing that I forgot to talk about was actually the saddle or the seat, and the touch points. So the saddle is pretty good. It's about 7.5 inches wide, kind of a mix between athletic and comfort. It has a really comfortable gel on it. I like it a lot. It feels like it's already worn in, which is really good. And of course the handle, I kind of, had a slip there. This is the handle that you hold on to if you want to maneuver the bike around. And up on the front of the bike, you have a faux leather stitched grip, which is really nice. It has this ergonomic kind of edge to it on both sides to it. So that feels really good. Something I did not expect to see on a folding bike. A lot of times on the folding bike, you find some components on it, particularly the touch points, that are a little more down to business, something that's a little utilitarian. But in this case, they actually have something that's quite comfortable. So I like it a lot. Let's go ahead and jump on the bike and go for a ride, because I'm excited. So on the Vika Plus, it has some upgrades from the previous model. I'm not as familiar with it, but I like the way that the bike rides overall. It's really tight. I kind of mentioned that earlier. It's pretty tight if you wanted to turn really quick, maneuver around an obstacle. Let's go ahead and jump around this. That's in the grass. Grass is not really the best terrain for this bike. Mostly based on the tires. I mean, it's kind of slick. It's meant for the road. Kind of in a high pedal assist. Let's scale it down. We're kind of going a little too fast for this area. So it is a cadence-based pedal assist, and as a result, it's pretty easy going. They don't need a lot of tension. Actually, you don't need any tension really in order to get the bike moving electrically. All you got to do is, let's see, we'll go into a really easy gear. All right, now we're in first gear right now. And in first gear, all you got to do is just rotate the pedals as a formality, more or less, and the electric system will get going. And that's pretty easy. So if you've got a upcoming, or if you're still recovering from a knee surgery or something like that, if you got some things that are kind of ever going, then you can totally use a cadence-based pedal assist system, because I think you would like it a lot.
With the torque-based systems, they feel really natural and everything, but they're not quite as easy if you just want more of, well, more of the utilitarian side. You just want to get from A to B, and it doesn't matter on the fitness side. But also for, like I said, like for that surgery or for any kind of, you know, joint issues or something like that, you definitely prefer a cadence-based system. But anyways, I'm kind of getting aside from myself. One thing I like about the bike, aside from the maneuverability, is also the utilitarian side of it. With the accessories that fit on the front and also on the back, you can totally deck this thing out to do quite a bit, you know, quite a little powerhouse. But more on the Vika Plus, the size of it, the folding size of it, is about standard. There's some bikes that fold really tiny, especially a bike that is non-electric. They get really tiny. But in this case, it's pretty standard for the folding size. There's other bikes that claim to be folding, but they actually don't. They just kind of change shape. But this one, as you saw, it definitely folds up. So I would put it on par with a lot of the electric folding bikes as far as size is concerned, which is a good thing. You know, it's common to see a bike that has like some really good positives, and then they don't tell you what the negatives are. You know, they say, hey, you know, our bike is a folding bike, but then they forget to tell you that, you know, the battery is minuscule or something like that. But in this case, you're getting quite a bit on this bike. You're getting a good sized battery, you're getting a you know, a good motor, you're getting a good system, lots of added accessories and stuff, and a pretty good price point too. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good package. You know, not a whole lot to look down on. Yeah, let's go ahead and get some accessories going. I really want to try out that kid's seat and see how it does with some weight on the back. All right, guys, so we actually took a little trip here to the canal to pick up Sweet Pea, and we got on the bike and went for a little ride, and I'll show you a little bit more of that on the way back. But yeah, as you can see, the child seat fits on the back of the bike just fine. We don't have any kind of adapter or anything. It actually natively fits onto the rack on the Vika Plus, so that's pretty cool. And the weight is a little bit back. You know, you can see that the weight of the child is, or Sweet Pea here. Say hello, Sweet Pea. Hi. So the weight of the child is, you know, pretty far back. It's further back than the motor even, which is usually the rear point as far as weight is concerned, until you get stuff on the rear rack. But it fits just well. One thing that I would notice is that, like, the weight is also lower. So the child weight is far lower than it usually is, because you usually have a taller tire, and that puts the weight of the child much higher as well. But in this case, with the lowered weight, it makes it pretty maneuverable. I did mention before that I prefer not to ride with no hands or even one hand when I'm doing a folding bike, and that is definitely magnified when you have the weight of a child on the back there as well. It makes controlling the bike all the more important and a little more sensitive as well. Sweet Pea, are you excited to go for a ride?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
I see fire trucks. Dad, there's our fire trucks.
Yeah?
Yeah. Me and my cousin took the floor. I see the gas, I see the gas, I see the gas.
Did you?
Daddy, I saw the gas.
All right, guys, thanks for checking out the Vika Plus with me. It's actually been a lot of fun. We've spent some good quality time with the bike, and I'm happy to share that with you guys. So yeah, if you want to check out the full write-up and specifications for this bike, including all the measurements and weights, go to ElectricBikeReview.com, where you can check out the review for this, as well as a couple of other Blix bikes, and you can also compare to other bikes around the industry if you'd like to as well. You can also go to that website if you want to participate in the forums, if you'd like to ask a question about the Blix bikes or something else, and kind of hang out in the community. So thanks for watching, guys, and thank you very much, Pontus, for showing me the Vika.
Thank you so much. It's awesome. If you want to know more about the Vika Plus or Blix in general, go to our website, BlixBike.com.
Cool. Thanks, guys.